Hello, my name is Andrea Miller, and I am so excited to host this session called Wake Up, Show Up, Light Up, Making Mindset Your Secret Superpower. I am joined by a truly incredible guest, one of my favorite people, Dr. Dan Siegel. For those of you who are familiar with Dan, get excited. For those of you who are not familiar with Dan, get even more excited. He is such a pioneer, such a luminous soul. I can't say enough good things. And boy, does he ever deliver such amazing, actionable, practical, truly incredible wisdom. Backed by neuroscience, Mindsight isn't just an interesting theory. It is a genuinely trainable superpower that transforms how you live, feel, connect with others, and experience life. And honestly, it is the gateway to super consciousness. No joke. All right, guys, let's get into it. I am so excited to introduce Dr. Dan Siegel. Dan is the founding co-director of the UCLA Mindful Awareness Research Center and founder and director of education of the Mindsight Institute. With numerous bestsellers and a professional series of textbooks, he's a leading voice in interpersonal neurobiology, shaping minds worldwide with wisdom and compassion. And he is a total rock star. Dan, thanks so much for being in our manifestation event. Thank you so much. So great to see you again.
Pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Okay, guys. So in this session, we're going to take you through three main parts to achieve greater mindsight. No surprise here. They are wake up, show up, and light up. And then Dan is going to take us through his groundbreaking, super compelling meditation. So let's get started. Dan, you ready?
Sure.
So part one, wake up, introducing mindsight. The connection between mindsight and greater consciousness is profound. Mindsight is essentially a gateway to expanded consciousness, and you are famous for developing it. What is that, and how does it help improve greater consciousness?
Well, thank you, Andrea, and thanks for these questions. You know, mindsight is a word, of course, but it's a word that means the ability to sense the mind. And the sight part of it is just like you have eyesight and you can see the physical world. This is the kind of sight that allows you to perceive the see inside, the mental world of emotions, thought, memory, meaning, beliefs, longings, desires, wishes, all these kinds of things that we have in our what's called subjective world, that even though the word subjective can sometimes be used in a negative way, like, oh, that's not real, it's just subjective. It turns out that in our lives, human lives, being tuned into your own subjective life, your inner mental sea, and the inner mental sea of other individuals who live in other bodies, or even the individual lives of other living beings, is the best way to feel connected and have a sense of belonging, and to be seen and to be able to soothe each other. So that ability is necessary. For example, I'm a physician for my work in medicine, but when I was a student, the professors didn't show it. I didn't have a name for it. No one had a name for it. So I ultimately, this is the late 70s, I dropped out, thought about doing other things. Ultimately, when I decided to come back to school, I had to make up a word for what I had learned in my time away, was that the mind was real. And not only real, it was really important. So I went back with this word mindsight back in 1981. And since then, everything I've been doing, whether my initial foray into pediatrics and then doing psychiatry of all sorts, including research psychiatry, studying parent-child relationships, and then looking at consciousness, all that stuff, Mindsight was at the foundation of it. And it includes three things: insight into your own mental sea, empathy for the sea of another person, but then approaching that where you differentiate and link, which has the word integration. So it's integration. And what we say is integration made visible is kindness and compassion. So Mindsight is insight, empathy, and integration, where integration is kindness and compassion. And then you get this whole way of living, basically, a mindsightful way of living brings well-being because integration is the base of health. So that's now 5 of my books all summarized into one paragraph. And now
That's
you don't have to read any of them.
We want to read them all now. And in part 3, we're going to dive more deeply into integration. But this idea of mindsight, it's not just being aware, it's aware of being aware, as you describe it. And some would even say it's meta-awareness, and that's the bedrock of higher consciousness. Would you agree with that?
That's a good place to start, in the sense that, like, for example, if someone is, let's say, angry at a neighbor because their dog was barking too much, you could be aware of your anger and then, hit your neighbor's dog.
Don't do that. Everybody listening, do not hit the neighbor's dog,
do
but
not
keep
do
going.
That, right. So there,
or any dog.
simple awareness of your anger doesn't bring you to this higher state. So if you're aware of what's in your awareness, so, wow, my dog's barking so much it woke me up. I'm filled with anger because it wasn't right that I was woken up. He should train his dog not to bark or whatever. I'm now aware of my anger within awareness. So it's meta means something onto itself, meta awareness. So this skill, this mindsight skill to know I have a mind which has an emotion, in this case, in this moment, it's anger at my neighbor and my neighbor's dog. So even if I feel my body wanting to punch the dog, I don't do it because that's not kind or compassionate. To put it very simply, it's you realize anger is a stuff of your mind. It's not something that has to take you over. And that would change the entire world if people develop this mindsight skill of saying, there is anger inside my awareness rather than, I'm angry, like that. Because I am angry, you identify. Anger.
I am versus I'm aware that I am angry, that there is anger inside of me, right? It almost like you're creating some distance with it, right?
Exactly. That's the difference and the distance that makes all the difference.
Oh, I love it. Okay, so how do people, the theory is great. How do people cultivate that kind of mindset that can make that transformative difference?
One of the ways is in what's called reflective dialogue. So when parents speak to their children about the inner nature of the mind, these mindsight conversations are how we actually cultivate this capacity. So there's a study, I'll just summarize it very briefly, of children who were deaf, raised by deaf parents, children who were deaf, same age, raised by hearing parents. By age of 3, they tested these, what in research terms, now we have the term theory of mind. It's pretty much similar to Mindsight. It was developed around the same time, that name. So when a kid is in one group, they develop their Mindsight abilities, these theory of mind tests they pass with flying colors. And the other group, they didn't pass at all, really. They looked like they were Mindsight challenged, We had theory of mind deficits is what the research showed. So which group was which? Now, it turns out that the kids with hearing parents lacked Mindsight. And the kids who were deaf, who had deaf parents, had Mindsight. And what the researchers suggested was that the conversations you could have when you are a deaf parent who knows how to do sign language in a very sophisticated way would allow that parent, for example, if a child at 3 is riding a tricycle, falls off the tricycle, the parent who is deaf can sign language, oh, that must have been so scary for you, a Mindsight statement.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that must hurt so much, the scrape on your knee. Let me hold you, comforts them with sign language, and then says, that must have been so frightening. You were so excited about riding your tricycle and you hit a rock and it flipped over and you didn't know to be careful about rocks. Oh, that's a hard thing. All about what's called mentalese, the language of the mind. You're talking about fear, surprise, what you could learn from the experience, how you're going to go forward in time, about memory, all this kind of stuff. The other parents, equally loving, but not sophisticated in sign language, go, get up.
Okay, let me push back there a little bit. Maybe, but I could see the hearing parent saying, "Oh, I'm so sorry that happened to you," and be empathetic, right? I don't know that.
But they wouldn't know how to communicate that.
But wouldn't they? Oh, I get it.
They could say it. They would say it, but the kid wouldn't hear it.
Got it. Okay, got it. So they're
they
not able to read their lips.
They could say all the exact same things with their mouth.
Right.
The kid wouldn't receive it because they're deaf.
Right. Got it. Okay.
So this is where it becomes such an important study, right? It's like a dialogue, a conversation. Yeah.
Okay. So you've referred to quantum-inspired views of consciousness, describing a plane of possibility beneath our ordinary thoughts and perceptions, and that this is a state of open awareness, allowing for greater consciousness. Is that what we can tap into by practicing Mindsight more effectively?
Well, Andrea, this is fantastic. First of all, it's a great question. And it's a huge leap for anyone listening to go from like...
I know, but I know you're there for it.
Especially the example of just a kid riding a trike. But yeah, it's a great question. And it was like a surprising turn in my own journey. Basically, to give you like the 30-second background, it became clear that you could say what the mind was as a process arising from energy flow that was in the body, not just your head, but also in our relationships. So that's the first thing. The second thing was to say that you could say that health came when an aspect of the mind that I named years ago, 35 years ago, called self-organization, was at the heart of health. And optimal self-organization arose from something we're going to name as integration. All that being said is, if you combine that statement, integration creates health, with a second, what's called consilient finding, you need awareness or consciousness for intentional change. Then if you decided you wanted with your patients, which I did years ago, to integrate consciousness, then you can actually develop Mindsight. And also what happened was there is a table in my office. We still have the table. Center is glass hub, outer wooden rim. And people didn't want to call it the table of awareness, so they named it the wheel of awareness. And then what happened was the differentiation of consciousness could happen when you said if I say, hello, Andrea, you had awareness that I said, hello, Andrea, right? Right. So that's kind of this flow of information inside of you. But before I say it, you don't know what I'm going to say. So there's this interesting thing about being aware of something. Right now, hello, Andrea. But before I say it, there's still awareness, but there's nothing in it. So this is, you can differentiate the knowns, in this case, the sound, hello, Andrea, from the knowing, the awareness that I said it. We put the knowing in the hub of this table, the wheel, and we put the knowns on the rim, and we divide the knowns into all sources of energy flow from outside the body, like in what you see or hear, taste or touch or smell, inside the body for the feelings in the body. And then we go and explore it with mental life, probably happening up in your head's brain, emotions, memories, thoughts, things like that. And then we even explore relational field awareness, a sense of connection to people and the planet. And then we move this singular spoke of attention around. So that being said, after doing that with my patients, then my students, then workshop participants, and then now it's been 65,000 people I've done it with in person. We've had a lot more stream it from our website, where they can experience it. So what happens is people got in the hub. There's a place where you bend this singular spoke around into the hub itself. So you're just literally dropping into pure awareness, and time would disappear. You felt connected to everyone, everything. There were no more noun-like entities. It was all verb-like emergences and unfoldings. And I happened to be working with a bunch of physicists, quantum physicists, and I asked them about, what is time and what is energy? And ultimately what they said was energy is the movement from possibility to actuality, which is kind of bizarre.
Hang on, say it again.
Well, this is a quantum physics definition of energy, which is relevant for our discussion because back in 92, I proposed that the mind was an emergent property of energy flow.
And you are a pioneer in this, because isn't that exactly what it is? There's a renaissance right now along these lines. And I say pioneer really with so much respect and appreciation, because I feel like now, 30-something years later, people are starting to understand what you identified 30-something years ago.
Apparently, yeah, that's what it seems to be happening. So energy, but from these quantum physicists, is defined as the movement from possibility to actuality, is what energy flow means. Time, it turns out we have two realms that is in our one reality. We have two realms. It's like walking on land, you have certain properties. And then if you jump into a lake, you have other properties of what it's like to swim in the water, right? No one like freaks out, oh my God, there's water properties and land properties. But we get used to that. Physics has demonstrated, and aspects of it were just given the Nobel Prize in 2022, has demonstrated that we have these two realms. So there's a large object macro state realm that Isaac Newton figured out, a long time ago, hundreds of years ago. And then there is the microstate, realm that quantum physics figured out about 100 years ago. And that realm is where things are smaller than an atom. Electrons and photons are units of energy. So it's important, if you're going to really say mind is an emerging property of energy, at least to open your mind, now that we have a definition of it, to what energy really is. And in that sense, like a unit of energy, quanta is called a probability field, which is weird to think about. But it's basically everything is about certainty versus uncertainty, levels of probability. And when you draw this out, what's called the quantum vacuum is a mathematical space. It's known as Arthur Zients, the emeritus quantum physics professor from Amherst, calls it the formless source of all form. That's a physics term.
It's sounding, what's the word? Meta, to say the least.
And, this sea of potential is also what it's called. I call it the generator of diversity, the GOD.
GOD, generator of diversity. Yeah, I love that.
It's where all possibilities are sitting before they move upward into probabilities and then actualities. And so I graph this out, check it out with my quantum physics colleagues. They say we don't have a graph of it, but yes, that's what we mean. And in terms of the time question you're asking, because we had time to talk about it in this monastery we were staying at, in the Newtonian macrostate large object realm, we have something called the second law of thermodynamics, which means that stuff tends to fall apart. It goes towards what's called entropy. Okay, so when you're in a large object like a body, that second law of thermodynamics applies, which means there's a directionality of change. That directionality of change is named the arrow of time.
Okay, so, that makes sense. I'm tracking.
Equations that you have for, let's say, in a Newtonian macrostate world, let's say the equations for I'm building a car, I want to build brakes for that car, so I know when there's a red light, 100 feet away, a human being will take this amount of time to press on the pedal for the brakes. The car will stop in time, so I don't become one with everything in the intersection. Right?
Not yet.
Right. So that requires the time variable. So time is our awareness of the arrow of time, the directionality of change towards entropy. But in the quantum realm, there is no time variable.
It's all at once, right?
Well, you could call it a space-time continuum. So it's all at once. It's timeless. It's eternity in that sense.
Right.
And it's also, there are no noun-like entities. So in the physical world of the Newtonian, things have separation. Andrea's body's there.
My glass.
Glass is
You've
there.
got your
Dan's
glasses.
body is here. And it's separated across time and space, four-dimensional. However, the 2022 Nobel Prize was given to show that non-locality has been now proven, which means that if you couple energy units, like electrons, let's say, and separate them out by 10 feet, 100 feet, 1,000 miles, whatever, Newtonian spatial separation does not impede quantum relationality.
And what does that mean in simple terms?
That means when you flip the electron here, it's paired up electron 1,000 miles away will change its flip, its spin instantaneously.
Oh, wow.
And
okay.
it is not something traveling that fast. Einstein called it spooky action at a distance. No, nothing's traveling fast in the speed of light. It's that their relational connections, their spin is complementary, and it'll change if they're right next to each other, or they're changed 1,000 miles. And now we even have evidence that things millions of miles away do that based on when the Big Bang happened and all sorts of stuff. But the bottom line of that is non-locality is now proven. Now, it's a big jump to go from how two electrons are relating to each other to talk about minds relating to each other.
I was going to say, I think we're back to consciousness now, Dan. I'm tracking.
But when you add the added dimension of that, you probably remember from high school, of the double slit experiment, that the act of observation changes the wave function, is one way to say it. It collapses the probability distribution into a particle rather than a wave. That makes some physicists, not all of them, but some very esteemed physicists say consciousness is primary. And in that view, what you would see then is that the bodies we're in are not creating consciousness. They're antennae, I guess would be the plural, that are immersing themselves in a universe of consciousness, and just things are flowing through us. We're not creating them.
You know how I think of it, Dan? I think of myself as a transducer, right? Receiving and radiating out, and the transducing part. It's not just in and out, that there is a change that occurs within this body, this nervous system, this consciousness. So that's, and there's this idea of us as tuners. So I love that. Yeah.
So the plane of possibility is an aspect of the graph that I drew for the physicists that visualizes this sea of potential, this quantum vacuum, this formless source of all form, the generator of diversity, on a graph where there's an X, Y, and a Z axis. We don't have to get into now. But the bottom line is the plane is what the hub of the wheel looks like it is coming from. So when you allow your energy to drop into this maximal uncertainty place, which is what the plane of possibility is, people start experiencing love, connection, joy, being at home, peace, feeling
That's
connected
oneness,
to everyone
right?
and everything. What's that?
That's the oneness, right? That's the oneness that we all crave. And I feel like in the absence of that sense of separation is what creates a lot of pain and suffering.
Exactly. And that's why the journey to the plane of possibility, and now getting to your original question, how do you teach this?
Mindsight.
I do the wheel of awareness every day.
Yeah.
In the wheel of awareness, you get an opportunity to access the plane of possibility. When you do it every day, like my colleagues and I do, you learn to swim in the water of the quantum realm, which is timeless, filled with love. And you walk on the land realm, the Newtonian realm, that you have a body that's not going to live forever. And you're able to hold both realms in one lifetime.
I could end this conversation right now just with that, but I'm not going to, because that was so beautifully summarized. Perfect. Thank you. And I feel it. And by the way, just because I am also such a proponent, I too do a daily heart-centered meditation, and it's been a game changer for me. And so it's just something that, talking to our audience, don't skip this part, people. Every day, whether it's Dan's amazing Wheel of Awareness or some other form of heart-centered meditation, tapping into that is what enables you to get to that plane of possibility and have the kindness and have the love and manifest everything you want. And by the way, I don't even think you're going to want all the stuff if you got the love and joy and compassion, because that's what matters most.
Hit it, hit it, hit it, hit it, get it, get it, get it, get it. Ow, ow, ow.
So you talk about this being your main tool for developing Mindsight. It trains your mind to observe without becoming what it sees. It connects your inner awareness with outer reality, and something you and I have talked about quite a bit. It expands our identity from me to me, something that I love, the self, the other, and the world. And then it's not just psychological. We talked about this, how it taps us into the plane of possibility. So with no further ado, do you mind just walking us through how long does it take? Maybe 10 minutes or so?
Yeah. So in broad terms, in research terms, there's 3 pillars of mind training that in other meditation practices have been shown to do all sorts of great things. Reduce stress hormone, improve immune function, improve cardiovascular function, reduce inflammation in your body by epigenetic changes. These molecules on top of your genes can reduce inflammation. It helps actually optimize an enzyme called telomerase that repairs and maintains the ends of your chromosomes. Those 5 things, if you heard a vitamin did it, you'd run out to the store and buy that vitamin and take it every day. So these 3 pillar practices build those 5 changes, molecular changes of medical health. It also creates integration in the brain, which is the base of well-being and resilience. So 3 pillars are training attention to be focused, training awareness to be open, and training intention to be kind. So you're training attention, awareness, intention. And the wheel, by good luck, has all 3 that research on other practices show create these positive changes. So those are usually separate practices, each of those 3. So the wheel has all 3 at once. So one of the reasons I do it every day is I know the research shows that literally it'll increase your health span, it'll slow the aging process, and just give you this resilience. So why not do it?
Mm-hmm. Well, and it makes your life so much more joyful, right? And back to this idea of being able to be present. Let's face it, we all have problems. Things go wrong. You spill the milk, etc. What I have found is by being so much more present and following a similar practice is that that resilience makes me such a better problem solver, to find the humor, and just to find that even when something goes wrong or is unexpected, to say, ooh, maybe this is a possibility that is going to open up something new for me, right?
Exactly.
Maybe this is a gift rather than, oh no, and I'm falling apart and I'm upset. I mean, it really shifts the paradigm in a profound way.
Yeah. And that's why making it a regular practice is just you get in the habit, and you're more likely to happen if you make it a regular practice. So, I mentioned the elements of it. Basically, if you picture a wheel where there's a center hub that is a metaphor for awareness, the knowing of consciousness. The rim represents all the things that could be known. And a singular spoke is a metaphor for the focus of attention. And the spoke comes from the hub to the rim until we get to the part where you actually bend the spoke around into the hub itself. And basically you explore on the first segment of the rim, energy from outside the body. So what you hear, see, smell, taste, and touch. You do those very slowly, systematically, and just absorb that. And if you get distracted, you can always begin again. You return to wherever we're at in the practice, knowing that the mind just gets distracted. Being kind to yourself is important. Then you move the spoke over to the second segment. Now you're developing something in science called the sixth sense. After the 5 senses in the outside world, now you're in the inside world of the body. And this is, sensations in your muscles, bones, organs. You go through them systematically. I walk you through the whole thing. This develops the interoceptive ability that's mediated in a certain part of the brain called the insula. And what my colleagues at UCLA were able to show is if you do practices like these, like a body scan, scanning the body, you actually grow the strength and size of that insula, which is a direct portal to knowing what's going on in your body, which is the starting point for empathy.
Okay.
Right.
Wow,
so
I didn't know that.
Interoception is the foundation of empathic ability. You got to be in touch with your body to be in touch with the internal state of others. So that's...
Well, I just want to pause right there because, and when I think about how much I was in my head for a very long time and started this kind of practice, this idea of embodiment, I feel like that's a buzzword that we're hearing about, but it is, to me, such a practical, non-theoretical mandate, like you say, for better health, for longevity, and the empathy piece. And you talk a lot about, you connect the dots so beautifully around just the connectedness and how by doing this kind of work and using Mindsight, how that can supercharge our relationships. And so I just didn't want to gloss over. I mean, when I think of empathy as a superpower. But if we're disconnected from our bodies and because we're always in our heads, it just we're at a deficit.
I agree. The embodiment, then the wheel of awareness helps you get that, and then you go on to the next segment of the rim, which is mental life, which gives you this amazing ability in the hub of awareness to now you're going to start going from the focused attention training to now the open awareness to just seeing whatever arises. And I've had so many people who are usually flooded with thoughts. I say, okay, in this practice, you just invite anything in. Nothing comes in. Their mind is quiet for the first time in their lives. And they go, oh my God, this is so peaceful. First they say it's so weird, so strange. I go, well, tell us what strange feels like. They go, oh, so peaceful, so joyous, so calm, and
present, right?
And they were just present. And that is what presence comes from, that pure awareness. So then you get some pure awareness there in the open awareness. Then if you're willing to do the advanced step, you bend the spoke around or just get rid of the spoke and just drop right into the hub. And this is where the timelessness and joy often come up. Some people get freaked out and get scared, which is really a rim fear. When you really get into it, they develop this fear of uncertainty, which is what pure awareness is in this model. So you can really see why embracing uncertainty is really embracing freedom, because that's where your other options are sitting, right? So then you move the spoke over after that to the fourth and final segment, which is our relational sense. And then you end with these research-proven statements you say in your inner voice of care and kindness, ending with MWE, M-W-E. Me plus we is the integrated identity of we. And that's why I try not to say things like self, other, in the world, because the self in this book I wrote, Interconnected, I try to do a whole book defending this sentence I'm about to say. Yourself is other people.
Totally.
And is other people. If we want to refer to that personal self, call it a personal self or an inner self or an individual self, that's totally fine, because the other is yourself and the forest is yourself. So it's hard to do because we're so used to saying self and other, and people mean well by it for sure, but it's unintentionally creating a division that we want to try to stop.
Oh, totally. And it's a radical view, but it is such a right-on view. And I think to the extent that that becomes a practice, and just back to how, this is part 2, show up, wheel of awareness, it strikes me to allow that as a possible, doing the Mindsight, opening up, transmuting fear and trauma and all that stuff, and allowing that as a possibility, surrendering to that as a possibility, it's a radical, profound, transformational thing that I have not mastered, but I buy into it and believe it entirely. And it's so cool that you've been such a advocate proponent of that, because it really is, it's radical. And the sent back to what you were talking a few minutes ago about separation, when we approach other and instead as we, it really is it's a radical, again, paradigm shift. Okay, we are going to get the opportunity to have Dan take us through his legendary wheel of awareness. But before he does that, I just really want to tee up what this is and why it's so important. This wheel of awareness and this practice, it's not just psychological. He describes it, as we were talking about a few minutes ago, but just to really underscore the point, this idea of tapping into the plane of possibility. This is a field of open potentiality between thought, where true creativity, intuition, healing, and even love arise, enabling us to be more connected, where each of us can create that bedrock of higher consciousness, which is game on when it comes to really powerful manifestation, where honestly, genuinely everything is possible. So I don't want you guys to skip over this. I don't want you to say, oh, let me just quickly run and grab a muffin and a cup of coffee or whatever. I mean, grab your muffin and cup of coffee, and then come and do it with me. So let's do this, guys. Let's have Dan walk us through the Wheel of Awareness meditation.
So just imagine the wheel of awareness with the center hub of knowing and the outer rim of the knowns and a spoke of attention. And we begin with just a focus on the breath, just to get us grounded and centered. Just ride the wave of the breath in and out. And now letting the breath go as a focus of attention. Let yourself center in the hub of knowing of the wheel of awareness. And this will be a condensed wheel where with each breath you can imagine just moving the spoke of attention around, but because my breath is a different timing than yours, it may not be exactly in sync, but you'll get a sense of the cadence in which we'll go around the wheel. And again, this is where the sense of knowing is represented in the metaphor of a hub. The spoke of attention will be a singular spoke. So when we go, for example, with sound, we focus on sound, let sound go, focus on light, let light go, etc. One sense at a time. So begin with sending the spoke out to the first segment of the rim and letting hearing be our first focus, and let sound fill awareness. And then moving the spoke over to the sense of sight, letting light coming through closed eyelids or eyelids gently opening, let light be the focus. And then moving to the sense of smell, the sense of taste, the sense of touch, and now taking a deep breath and imagine moving the spoke of attention over to the next segment of the interior signals of the body, muscles and bones and organs. Let's begin with the facial region and just let this flow go from the face to the forehead and scalp, the ears, the throat and neck, down to the shoulders, streaming attention down both the arms to the ends of the fingers, back to the upper back and chest, the lower back and muscles of the abdomen, the hips, streaming attention down both legs, the ends of the toes, and then bring the attention to the pelvic region, to the genitals. And now bringing attention to the internal intestines, the abdomen, deep inside, following those gut sensations up inside the abdomen, up to the top of the abdomen, to the stomach region. And then following those sensations up through the esophagus that connects stomach up through the chest to the interior of the throat, inside of the mouth. And moving to the respiratory system behind the cheekbones with the sinuses, back of the nose, inside of the mouth, and then down the front of the throat, sensing the trachea, the tube that brings life-giving air down inside the chest, where the lungs on both sides of the chest expand and contract. Centering attention in the heart region, and letting the whole of the body fill awareness. And now bringing attention from these interior singular parts of the body to the whole of the interior of the body. And now taking a deep breath, and we move to the third segment of the rim. So we put the spoke on mental activities. And in this condensed form, just being open to whatever arises. Nothing may come, a couple of things may come, many things may come. Just sense those things or the lack of them and just feel what that feels like. A bring it on attitude. And then opening to the hub itself, bending that spoke around and just resting in awareness. That plane of possibility, deep beneath all those plateaus and peaks. And then from this openness of awareness, this hub of the mind, imagine moving the spoke over now to the final part of our practice, our interconnections, and just let your sense of relatedness from this body experience we have to those closest to you here in the room, physically next to you, and the connection to people outside of this room, people you work with, your family, friends, people who live in your city, your state, your country, and then opening to a sense of connection to all human beings who share this wonderful and wondrous planet, this place we've named Earth. And then opening finally to a sense of connection to all living beings on Earth. And then one final set of the practice is just to send out wishes to all living beings, to ourselves, and to our interconnected selves, the we, that is an integrated identity. We say, may we be happy. May we be healthy. May we be safe. And may we flourish and thrive. And then finding the breath once again. And now taking a bit of a deeper breath, we let this wheel of awareness practice come to a close for today.
Oh, whew. That is so powerful. That is so powerful. And just imagine if you did that every day from your heart. It is such an opportunity to transform. It really is. Okay. So what did you notice as you moved around the rim? What shifted when you returned back to the hub? Grab your Power of Manifestation handbook and just write those notes down, and anything else that you experienced, any resistance you may have felt. And if you don't have the manifestation handbook, no problem. Just write in your notebook, your journal. But definitely take a few moments just to have that reflection. Thanks for the highlights around the Wheel of Awareness, and we will make sure we get links so people can listen to you walk through people.
Mm-hmm.
Walk through it on your website.
Please do, and do it with a lot of kindness to your inner life, because it's not, it's a wonderful practice, but it takes time to learn,
Well, yes. And you and I have actually done it together, and I've done it on your website. It's a beautiful practice. It feels good.
Yeah. No, you can do it for sure. I'm not saying it's like hard. Oh my God, you're climbing up a steep hill, but just be gentle with yourself, because sometimes people, they want to just jump in, but just be gradual about it and just do it as feels right to you. But starting it is the hardest part. Then keeping it going is a good challenge.
Yeah. A daily heartfelt meditation kind of practice like this is a game changer. So talking to our audience, I entreat you to try it. And I want to entreat you not just once, because it's worth, I would say, guys, let's all commit to doing the Wheel of Awareness with Dan every day for a week. Dan, it takes what? It can be as little as 10, 15 minutes, and you can extend it longer if you want to.
The big one is 22 minutes, but...
Okay, all right. So that's...
Andrew, if you really want to do a challenge, there's a book called Becoming Aware, which lets you gradually do it over a 21-day challenge. And that way people would have a guide. You get that book. It's a little extract from the larger book Aware, but it would give you a guide to working together. That would be I'd love to hear how your community responds to that, because I carefully kind of extracted from the big book Aware, here's how you would do it on a 21-day practice. And it allows you to journal and say, and then by the 21st day, 3 weeks, you are really solid in the practice. And then continuing it is really pretty straightforward.
Love it. Okay, challenge accepted, everybody. Becoming aware. We're going to do this as an amazing community, and Dan's making it really easy for us. Let's get into part 3, light up. Integration, the science of wholeness. So, Dan, you've indicated that when we're integrated, we move from reactivity and resistance into harmony, coherence, and conscious creation, and so much more. And of course, this is a great place to manifest. What does integration mean in simple terms, and how can people apply that practically in their lives?
Yeah. So in simple terms, that word is defined as elements being different. Let's say you're in a relationship with someone close to you, a good friend, a partner, life partner. You differentiate from each other. This is the first part of integration, meaning you respect differences. You allow this specialization, this uniqueness of each individual to have their inner essence, right? That's step 1, differentiation. So that's the word different with "tion" in it. So it's allowing it to be different. And then you link in this process of linkage, which is a connecting, right? And the important thing about the connecting aspect, the linking aspect of integration, is you don't lose the essence of the differentiation. So it's not like blending. So it's not like a smoothie. It's more like a fruit salad.
Okay,
right?
love it. Got the visual.
See, the pieces of fruits and nuts and vegetables that you have in this wonderful salad.
Marshmallows.
And marshmallows.
One of
exactly.
those.
Yeah. And so you've got it together like that. That's what integration is. Integration is not blending. So it's used differently in different fields, but in our field, interpersonal neurobiology, that's how we very specifically define it. And what it means is that in a relationship, like let's say between a parent and a child, if there's an integrative communication, it means a parent is really honoring that the inner mental life of that child is different from what the parent expected it to be or thinks it should be.
Amen to that. As a parent with 2 boys, 12 and 15, Dan, you're talking to me.
So
I'm picking it up.
When you just put all your expectation on them, it's not a differentiated relationship. So you've lost integration. And when integration is impaired, whether you're blocking differentiation or you don't even care what's going on inside your kid, you just ignore them. That's a blockage and linkage. Then you get what is not integrated is it's like a river where one bank is chaos, the other bank is rigidity. I also name that river of integration the window of tolerance. So when you're inside the window, you're in this flexible, adaptive, it spells the word FACES, flexible, adaptive, coherent, energizing, stable flow. That's what describes an integrative system, is this FACES flow. So it's harmony. Just remember harmony and health. So harmony and health is either inside the window of tolerance for a given moment, and you can widen that window with your own inner work or therapy or something. And over time, we call it the river of integration, but it's the same diagram, basically.
Right.
And you can widen it out so that if, let's say, something happened, and so I can get very frightened, I can get very sad for people I'm very close to, I can get angry about things that are not right. Any of those, core emotions, if I have a narrow window for any of them, I'll bust into chaos or rigidity. I'll shut down in rigidity or I'll explode in chaotically. If I widen my window, then I can hold the sadness, anger, or fear, speak to it and say, there is fear inside of me, not I am scared or I am angry.
That's back. So that's back to the connection between Mindsight and integration, right?
And now you see where it all comes together, right? So now I'm able to say, there's a lot of anger in me because wrongs are being done, or there's a lot of fear in me because people are going to be hurt, or there's a lot of sadness because families are being ripped apart, or whatever I might say. And so I can be with this emotional experience without being thrown out of my window and then into chaos or rigidity. So it's a way of really just naming the work we need to do is widen our windows so we flow inside the central stream of this river of life. And that's what integration is. And what's been absolutely amazing to me, whether I'm working individually with a patient or this self called Dan, this inner self, integration, we have 9 domains of integration we work with. It's kind of the heart of health. And when you sort of sense into these 9 domains, you can see where to do the work, where blockages in integration have been arising. And then by liberating the blockages, integration naturally arises from the plane of possibility.
And it all comes full circle, all together.
Actually,
it all collapses together. I love
just
it.
Let integration arise from the plane by removing the blockages. That has to be an active effort often. That can come from trauma or what the culture is telling you or what your parents told you or whatever. So you remove the blockages and then let integration arise. Let health emerge. And basically, it's tapping into love that is the vital force of the universe.
Okay, guys. Quick journaling prompt. This integration step is so important. And I just love, Dan, how he talks about the river of integration and how he is entreating us all to open that window of tolerance, right? And if you look at the screen now, you'll see the one side of that's rigidity, the other side that's chaos. What I want you to write down, first reflect, and then write down where in your life and maybe just think of in the last day or two, an experience where you angled toward more of that chaos experience or more of that rigidity experience. And using the Mindsight technique that Dan talked about, I am angry, or I am sad, or I am out of control. Can you just use that real quick to help you reflect on how you angled toward more chaos or more rigidity? And critically, what might more integration feel like? How might that help you widen that window of tolerance and feel more integrated? I mean, that's it, right? That is that. And ultimately, I mean, this is a manifestation event. I mean, that's the ultimate prize.
Yeah. I mean, the manifestation word is so interesting. The downside of the manifestation word is I've heard people come to me and say, I got a terrible terminal illness, and people tell me I manifested it and it's my fault. And so I get a little bit of a reaction because I've worked with so many patients who hear the whole manifestation thing and they go, when bad things happened, it means I caused them because we're responsible. And I go, no. So my initial reaction, but the more I learn about the idea of intention, let's use that there is something about the intention we bring to life, let's say for kindness, and opening up, having the intention, this kind intention to open up and be caring, that then exudes in your energy that you bring as you walk through the world, that brings more kindness to you. That's kind of the positive side, I think, of what people mean by manifestation, is that bring your intention for positivity and it will attract to it positivity. But when people hear the other side, or when I've actually seen written, if you didn't get $1 million in your mailbox, it was your fault.
Well, let me chime in, and I think it's a really important point. And somebody, a dear friend that we share mutually, Dr. James Doty, he talks about manifestation from the inside out, and he had millions and millions of dollars and the fancy cars and an island and all this stuff, and everything collapsed in his life. And ultimately, what he figured out is a path to manifesting what really does matter, and it's back to love. It's back to kindness. It's back to compassion. And yes, somebody might want a fancy car and a nice home, and we all want great relationships and so forth. But when I think about just really coming full circle, and since we need to go here in a moment, you just were concluding a moment ago about how love is this primal driving force in the universe. To me, the whole point is that we do this work, we do Mindsight, we practice integration and so forth, because that ultimately is what provides the meaning to it. I mean, I know plenty of people that have fancy cars that are not happy people, and big homes, and they are not happy people. And again, no judgment against wanting a fancy car and a big home, but it does, to me, come full circle. And that's James Doty's whole story in his beautiful book, Into the Magic Shop, where he had all the stuff, but lacked that self-compassion, and he came from a lot of trauma. And it's just, to me, his story really underscores the point you're making as well, which is the big house, the car, all that stuff is secondary. What matters most in our lived experience is that, and you highlighted too, that feeling of kindness and showing up so somebody else can feel felt. And I love that your work, you've been a pioneer doing this work that has been radical in academia, but it's right on time right now. And it's been right on time for a long time, but I'm glad the rest of the world is catching up.
Well, thank you. It's a beautiful message, the idea of getting more deeply in touch with what really matters, and not falling for what's called the master narrative of our culture of individuality, which drives us toward accumulating material things. And so there's a clear relationship. I was just in Sweden and got the report that 40 years ago, Sweden had some of the highest rates of mental health, credible collaboration, community, connection, belonging. In 40 years, they have some of the worst mental health, suicide, depression,
I didn't realize that.
addiction.
Darn it. Darn it.
It's directly correlated with the emergence of individuality in that culture. That's what changed. So it's just to put a shout out to this idea that what we need to do is name what the hidden toxin is, which is the belief that the self is just the body, self is just the individual. Individualism, in this example of Sweden, is what's killing everybody. And we're meant to be together. It's better together. Kindness. When I asked Sharon Salzberg, the wonderful teacher in loving kindness, I said, we were teaching together. I said, what is this loving kindness stuff? What does it really mean? She goes, Dan, what it really means is acknowledging that we're all deeply connected to one another. And I said, wow, that's actually what kindness is about. Is you look at another human being, you look at another species, other living beings, and you realize they're just other versions of you. That's what we is. And so we can name that so we can frame it in a way that we can do something about it. And that's what intentionality is all about, and that's the kind of world we can try to create with intention as we shape cultural evolution toward this more integrative identity as not losing the me, but not losing ourselves just in a we. The integrated thing is you retain the essence of the individuality of me, while you also gain the belonging and feeling felt of we, and you put them together in that goofy little singular 3-letter word, we, and then we can do this.
We are doing it, Dan. And just my last little teeny tiny bit here, because it's like, if each of us did exactly what you described, that would transform our planet. That would transform humanity. And we can't wait for somebody else to go first. Guys, don't wait for the other person to go first. I hope you are all as inspired and fired up as I am, having listened to Dan describe all of this incredible information, and take action, because ultimately it's such a gift to be able to do it, right? It's just a gift to be able to do it. And my lived experience has transformed by doing the kinds of things that you have been advocating for. And I'm just super grateful for your research, for your passion, for all of your books, and for being in our event. Thank you so much, Dan. Any last words? Because I know you need to go.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so very much for such a riveting, energizing, activating session. It's always such a gift to speak with you. I feel like I've got so many takeaways, and I know our audience has so many takeaways. So to wrap up, wake up, show up, light up, making Mindsight your secret superpower. There are 3 big steps here, folks. Number 1, using the principles of Mindsight to really become more aware of your awareness. That's 1. Number 2, doing, and it is a practice, the wheel of awareness meditation that Dan so beautifully walked us through. And then the final one, this whole business of integration, and how using those principles is what gets us back to wholeness, gets us back to we, gets us back to oneness. It is just a genuine gift, an opportunity for not just transformation, but back to the power of manifestation, genuinely using these techniques, really putting them into practice, creates that gateway, creates that bedrock to super consciousness. So don't skip these steps, guys. Don't skip these steps. Take it to heart, put it into practice. If there is one more final takeaway from this riveting session with Dr. Dan Siegel, the legend, it is this: to manifest the life you dearly want, start with cultivating greater conscious awareness. This really can be your superpower. Good luck. You got this.